So I decided with a lull in the games coming out to review, or new games at least that I'm interested in, I'd take a look at my Steam library and backlog, and holy hell, that's just under 1,200 games. Well, that's some stuff I should probably play, so here we are, a random generator that will pull a game from my library. And my library is 1,184 games deep, and that is always growing. Now, there do need to be some rules here. Some games I just won't be able to play due to them being a live service game that was discontinued, or lobbies no longer available, or finding a game is just too difficult. So, we'll also get game series that, games with series of games that I own. What comes to mind is I own all of the Atelier games on Steam. Well, minus the third one, since that one is more recent, I just never got around to it. Or all of the Civilization games, or all of the Elder Scrolls games, something like that. Then there'll also be an outlier here or there with series like XCOM, where you do have your tactical RPG style games, your turn-based ones. Then you have your weird third-person action games like Enforcer. Then you have Interceptor, which is a space dogfighting game, or the tactical squad combat one, such as the Bureau XCOM Declassified. Those all have to put some thought into on what we play, but for, stuff like Civilization, the most recent title will do, or, anything, in that kind of caliber. A game in the series is a game in the series. We'll just go with the most recent one, unless there was a huge change in the game series itself. Anyways, that's what I'll be doing. Probably a little bit slice of the game, my impressions of it, or at least as much as I can stomach if they are awful, god-awful messes of a games, and give my impressions of it. So, maybe a review of a 20-year-old game on Steam. Who knows? Why not? And with that, here we go, starting up the first game in this series of my Steam backlog. Insurgency Sandstorm at its core is what you'd consider a hardcore, tactical first-person shooter. Though, unlike other entries in this genre, there are a few slight, noticeable differences. Now, this genre isn't all that large, with a few titles really existing in it that are still played today. You're looking at games like the Red Orchestra series, Escape from Tarkov in mechanics and style of play, albeit minus the extraction-based portion of the gameplay loop, Squad, and the Arma series, though those are a little more in-depth and require quite a bit more coordination, and you see that in how people play with one another in those titles. Now, Insurgency positions itself purposefully to be the more casual game in this entire genre, and to good effect. They do this by including a variety of game modes that you have seen in other more casual shooter franchises. On top of that, you also do have dedicated co-op modes. And these do have some rotating options in and out, but these are all cooperative, where you are playing versus enemy AI to complete a few objectives here or there. This is a good change of pace if you're into that sort of thing in your tactical shooter. Now, you do have a few modes here called Outposts, where you are fighting off waves of enemies, and you gain supply points after each wave to up your arsenal and help defend better. You have Checkpoint, which is much like the push mode of the Versus gameplay loop, where you and your loadout with your teams against the AI move to new points to fight the enemy off and push them through and win the game. Then you have the more interesting one here, Survival, where you start off with only a pistol in your loadout, and from there you either have to pick up weapons that the enemy AI drop upon being killed, or after each checkpoint is captured, each objective location, a loot box will appear, and much like the mystery box in Call of Duty Zombies, a random weapon will pop out with various different attachments on there. So you're really at the force of the gods, the RNG gods, on what you get and how playable that is. These are all fairly short game modes. Hardcore checkpoints a little bit longer, just because you move slower Supplies are much more limited, such as equipment-wise. You have less ammo, stuff like that. Outposts can be pretty quick or pretty long, depending upon how good your team is. Survival's usually on the longer end if you're actually going to win. Checkpoint's pretty quick because you have your own custom loadout and you just kind of launch through there. Versus-wise, the more traditional aspect of what people do in shooters, you have a few modes. Push, it's where both teams are fighting over the same objective, essentially. Attackers will be pushing through the map, trying to capture points, while defenders will stop them. If that point is captured, it moves on to the next one on the map. Frontline is where both teams are fighting over capturing an objective and defending an objective at the same time, which is a nice sort of game mode. You have Ambush, which is much like the VIP mode in the most recent Call of Duty entry. Single life, elimination. One team is extracting with a VIP who has a limited kit, and other team is trying to kill said VIP. Domination. Everyone knows what domination is. Domination is going to be like Call of Duty Domination, where you respawn, you capture points, try to hold the points for a specified amount of time. Then you have Firefight. There are limited objectives to capture. Much like Domination, there's only 3. However, you are dead until your team captures a point, so it becomes this loop of trying to capture a point to respawn your team while not trying to die. These games usually end on one team being eliminated overall. Then Defusal, this is just search and destroy from Call of Duty, or the variant that Battlefield had at one point. So there's that. And then there's always a rotating, like, limited time game mode you can play. And when new maps are issued, much like in Call of Duty, you have a playlist to go over all of those game modes available. And, I mean, I suppose you do also have your community servers. It's always been searching, various things, various game modes. Don't know how you're doing esports 028. Ugh. But most game modes are 14 versus 14, as you can see in here, with sometimes 12 or 12. Now, finding a game is actually really quick. You're usually spending only like maybe a minute at most searching for a game, though that may be because I have all regions selected, so your luck may vary. Though typically I'm usually on pretty decently high ping, around 80 to 100, so I think I'm playing on European, Asian, or Russian servers. That's where the game is mostly popular, it seems. Now, one of the cool things about here is its customization, and with that, you always have the store. Now, in the store, these are just skins. You can't purchase guns, you can't purchase anything like that. It's just skins for character customization. You have full-on outfits, as you can, let's see. Yeah, full-on outfits as you see here. Whereas something like this, different parts can be added at will. Then you also have your gun skins, sometimes bundled here. Different outfits, so that's the monetization for this game, and this game has been around since 2018. It's still receiving new updates, so the monetization model is indeed working for it, because it is a one-time purchase, and everything new that comes in is free outside of the skins. Now, those skins are used in customization, generic choices for voice, both insurgents and security, as well as gender if you are on security, as it's more of a normalized than military, character models, hair, tattoos, etc., etc. Then your other options, you have your headgear, face wear, eyewear, hands, torso, legs, feet, equipment look like your backpacks or your light armor, your heavy armor, etc. And then you know what camo you want to be in that's associated with your character. Now, as you level up, you also earn your credits here, which you use to purchase different items. So if it's something like, let's say here, your shell, it'll cost 400 credits to unlock. Or in some cases, there's even more expensive ones for like the compression shirt. It all just varies, so That's what you have for customization, at least how you look. Insurgents have their own little style thing going on. Then you also have your loadouts. Loadouts, it's a class-based shooter, kind of. Rifleman, as many people can be a rifleman as they want. Breacher is going to be shotguns, SMGs, Advisor. They get a few special guns to use. Demolitions are going to be rocket launchers, grenade launchers, explosives, marksman, sniper rifles. Gunner is going to be LMGs, putting out suppressing fire. Observer and Commander are the special ones. Commander is going to be calling in battlefield support, much like kill streaks in Call of Duty, though they need an observer to be near them because the observer has a radio, which the commander uses after their binoculars to mark an area to call stuff in. Now, they all have different guns, and they all cost a different amount of points. You have loadout supply points. Now, some guns are just better than others. So your MDR is going to be much better than your M16A4, and that is how they balance it out. Controllability of fire, damage they do, velocity, mag capacity. Then beyond that, you have attachments which require a certain amount of points. Oh my god, this site sucks. Let me change that. There we go. Outside of that, then you have sights, barrel modifications, under barrel modifications, magazines, side rails. So it just depends upon each gun which they have. And depending upon that, you have different options as well. So like I said, you're going to have submachine gun options here in the breacher, as well as shotgun. Your marksman's going to have sniping options from battle rifles such as the MK14 to sniper rifles such as the M110 SASS, anti-material rifles, more traditional bolt-action rifles. And then this does also change for each side, so your options are going to be different depending upon the side you are on. Think something along the lines of Counter-Strike. And now, a lot of the guns over here on the Insurgent side are cheaper, and you do get a free sidearm. They're just generally weaker and worse, though your grenade options, carrier armor, those are all going to be about the same, with the addition of also getting a gas mask for free on the Insurgent side to help you deal with smoke. Now you can also go through and change your stuff for different game modes. So like Domination doesn't have an observer, it doesn't have demolitions, and it doesn't have a commander. So you can also just adjust everything a little bit different here with different amounts of points being allotted. Survival will have its own thing that you can set up ahead of time. Co-op just in general as well for checkpoint. So that's all pretty good there as well. Its loadout balance is really how they balance the game. It's not like Call of Duty where you can just fill every single slot with the best possible option. You do have to think, hey, do I want to have more grenades? Or do I want to have extra attachments on my weapons? Do I want to have a super powerful weapon? Or do I want a weaker weapon to put attachments on it to be more versatile? That's really the decision you are going to have to make. Gameplay-wise, it's a shooter. It's a first-person shooter, as you can probably guess, just with a few more things going on at a much slower pace than we'd probably used to in a more arcade-like shooter such as the Call of Duty franchise or the Battlefield franchise. It's slow, it's methodical, and honestly, it's really boring to watch gameplay of for the Versus. As I was recording gameplay from the Versus game mode, my goodness, I was just thinking about, this is awful content. It's not even like Escape from Tarkov where there are stakes involved, where if you die you lose your gear and you have to start over, much like with Marauders or anything like that, or Call of Duty where it's much more fast paced, you have kill streaks, you have rewards going on. In this, it's just walk to a corner, peek around it, watch an angle, make sure it's clear. Oh, you were unlucky, someone peeked at that time, and now you're dead, and now you're waiting on a 10 to 20 second respawn timer, or it looks like the round is over because your teammate's not on the objective that the enemy's capturing and ending it. or a lot of the combat is just waiting for the enemy to do a big push to try to capture an objective from your team. So you're waiting for 40 seconds for 3 seconds of action through a doorway. There's smoke obscuring the screen. Actually, those parts of the gameplay are actually pretty interesting because it's just people meeting in the middle of the smoke with no visibility. But overall, footage from the Versus is just entirely boring, and I did not capture anything that was entertaining, I don't think. Because, like I said, it's slow and methodical outside of domination, which just isn't all that fun in this type of game, I think. Just where you're holding those angles, but it doesn't really matter because there's no real threat to the person holding the angle. Anyways, so this is going to be more of the co-op available in the game, which I do think is the more interesting portion of this game, because you do have other just versus-focused shooters like this, hardcore tactical shooters. You have Squad, you have Arma, and those are much more interesting to watch because you have commanders coordinating battlefields of players trying to take large objectives, trying to coordinate strikes. That's really interesting. In this, it is more arcadey, so it's much smaller. It's 12 versus 12 or 14 versus 14. The commander's role is just to call in support, like rocket barrages, support helicopters, UAVs, large swaths of smoke to be called in to help your team advance up. That's just not as interesting. So, yeah, it's mostly just the co-op here. And the co-op is definitely much more fast-paced. You're either using your own custom loadout kit and mowing down swaths of enemy AI who are just as lethal as you. They do get shots off on you. They do kill you in 1 or 2 hits, much like you do to them. So it is more entertaining in that fact that while you can be a little more gung-ho than when fighting against other players, they still are just as lethal to you. And so with that in mind, I mean, it's a bit different from what shooters most people are playing. This is available on consoles as well. You can use a controller on PC to play it. Now, I know I'm talking down on the Versus a lot, but that's just from a content standpoint. From a content standpoint, it's just too slow. It's not like Rainbow Six Vegas, where that is a 1 to 2 bullet TTK as well, where you're holding angles a lot of the time. You are pressured by the really short round timers present in the game. You're looking at 2 to 3 minutes to complete an objective or wipe out the other team. In this, it can be 20 to 30 minutes of 2 teams just sitting on their own objective trying to get the other team to run out of respawn waves. Or in domination, it's just one team usually completely dominating all 3 of the domination points, the capture points, while the other team is just spawn trapped. So, yeah. Now, I'm saying like the normal versus modes, the push, the ambush, those are fun. They're really fun. They're just really slow, really methodical, and not great for content. So unfortunately, it's not something that I'm really adept here at showing because my time in the game is limited and I don't play too many shooters that often anymore. So it's not like I can just go off and get a bunch of really great kills because things happen in this game. A stray bullet will kill you. A bullet penetration through a window will kill you. So if you're in a spot, someone knows where you are, they'll shoot you through a wall. It happens. Now, would I recommend Insurgency Sandstorm? That's honestly tough to say. For your average FPS enjoyer looking for a new Call of Duty or Battlefield replacement, probably not. But for someone looking for something to add to their rotation of SPS games, it could be a good change-up. Most likely this would be for fans of the Rainbow Six style of shooter looking for something just a little bit different without maybe those hero element style kits, or fans of Escape from Tarkov, Marauders, Red Orchestra, Squad, or Arma style games. This would be a good alternative if you're looking for a faster paced game to play. Ultimately, it is a fun game. I did own it for a while. I had played it a long time ago. And, I mean, picking it up, it was fun once more. Like I said, it was just a chore trying to find content within the game that would be entertaining or interesting to watch. So it's definitely not a game that you can entertain people with, I don't think. Now, ping can be an issue at times, and I think that's just because most of the player base is not in the US like I am, but there does seem to be a solid player base still. So if you're okay with hovering around that 80 to probably 120 on average ping for most people, the game will be fine for you. If you're looking for something where that's not going to be present, this game is probably not going to be for you. It is at this point, 5-year-old game. Who knows how much longer it's going to be supported. But with that being said, I was only waiting maybe at most 1 minute for a game lobby to be found.
All right, hang on.
Last note here is the game is quite often on sale, usually for 50% off at the price tag of $14.99. And at that price, you really can't beat it. It's a fun game for $14.99. It's a fun shooter with plenty of content to go through, plenty of game modes. And if you want a more hardcore tactical FPS, then pick it up now while it is on sale, or just keep it on your wish list and watch for it to go on sale. Regularly priced, it is $20.99, and I think at this point in the game's life cycle, I don't think I can recommend it. You're better looking for another shooter option to play. But with that being said, if you're into hardcore tactical FPSs, this probably is for you.